Hello, friends. So I just wanted to pull out the cards that we did last week so that you have something to look at while we're chatting. Alright, so I am still learning, so I do apologize. Trying to find things. Okay, so I think I have everything set up and going. Almost everything. All of the lights would be a good thing to have. Alright, so there will be a little bit of noise here shortly, but it shouldn't be too much, and you know, it's what happens when you have your film studio next to your kitchen. Okay, let's see. Alright, now that should be good for everything, I think. I hope. Okay, so we are doing oh yeah, okay. 3 cards. I thought I lost my 3rd card. So these are cards from last week. just to kind of give you an idea of what we did. And this one actually has not only a double opening, but also a magnetic bookmark. So there is that, and some fun coloring with a stencil. And clearly I forgot to do the inside of that card. That's okay. Alright, let's get started with today's cards. So I think that you will actually love them. I mean, hopefully you love all of them that I do, but, you know, who knows. So we are going to, you know what, let's do the easiest one first. So we're actually going to use the Flower Shop paper pack for all of our cards tonight. I played with that a little bit last week and I just kind of fell in love with it. And this is the card we're going to make. Alright. So we have a lot of different details on here, but it's super fun and super time friendly, believe it or not, to make. So this is a 5x7 card, and with the elements you can make exactly 2 of these cards as you see them, with the flowers and elements and whatnot. So let's get started. We will use some stickers. So we'll use this leaf, one of these flowers, this pink flower, and this blue flower, as well as this white flower over here. Yep, that's it on those. Pull out all of our pieces. We are going to use the oval frame thin cuts. And I did actually cut this out 3 times, and I have already glued it together to help save some time for the video. And these are the pieces that come out of the complements. We have a piece of white daisy. It did come out of my scrap bin, so I'm not sure. It's 1 1/4 by however long. This is obviously too long. This one's 5 3/4. It'll probably be closer to 4 1/2-ish when we're done. Alright, we have a 3/8 inch strip of the same paper from the front. This is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, as well as a piece of white daisy for the inside. And we are using the A Friend Like You stamp and thin cuts for our sentiment. So let's put this together, shall we? We need some glue, so we will use some Tombow glue because one of these pieces is acrylic, and sorry, my glue is missing. And that is really very strange. Alright, so you can use the Tombow glue because it will stick. The other option is you can use glue dots. They will adhere to both the paper and the plastic. You do not want to use liquid glass. It does not have any grip for the plastic on the acrylic shape. So yeah, all right. So set this aside. Let's do some stamping before we move on to anything else, so that has time to dry. I'm just going to use my pad from inside my Mini Misty. So I am going to change up the sentiment just a smidge, just so that I have cards that are similar but not the same. So this one, I'm blessed to have a friend like you. Anyway, sorry, it's not focusing. And you know what? How about this one? Thanks for being a friend. So if you are worried about how well your stamp is going to stamp, then you can go ahead and use the Mini Misty, and that way you can stamp again if you need to. I am going to use some Archival Black because that does give us a nice rich black stamping. I did not introduce myself. I apologize. My name is Michelle, and I am here with Crafters Northwest. And I'm just going to stamp this right in the middle. In the middle. I'm going to let that ink sink in just a smidge. And we have nice black stamping. And thanks for a friend like me, or thanks for being a friend. And I'm going to offset that just a bit. Sorry, I know I'm slightly off screen, but I needed to be able to see that. Alright, that is our stamping, so we're going to go ahead and let that dry. Clean these off super quick because I need these blocks. If I don't clean them first, my fingers turn black. I don't know about you guys, but I seem to have that. Even with that, my fingers turn black. All right. I almost want to add some hearts to the end, but then I also don't want to accidentally screw it up. So I think we're going to leave it. Let's attach some of these things together. I guess I also need a card base, don't I? That would be super handy. Alright, so I'm just going to run some tape along there. And I like to leave a small white border along the edge. But if you don't like to do that, then by all means, don't do that. Alright, that piece can go back in my package. see how much tape I have. Let's see what glue I need to switch to in the middle of the video. This is just still so strange to me. I have no idea where that could have gone off to. I wonder if one of my children borrowed it. Alright, inside is done. Let's add the front cover because it's super easy to do. Alright, I do like to hold mine at a bit of an angle so that I can line up. I can visually see these three sides easily, and then I can also measure down here as well and still get any movement that I might need or want. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And we are going to grab, now I'm using the Shaker Window Foam and Acetate for the oval. It's made specifically for this product. I'm actually just going to use the foam. I'm not going to use the acetate, but it does come and it has a protective sheet on it, so it looks kind of milky right now, but it really is super, super clear when you take that off. I'm going to keep this out. This is the only one that I have that still has the squares on the inside. I've used the rest of them already, and yeah, it's super handy. I love that space is not wasted space. It gets used. Alright, and I'm just going to set this down, making sure that it doesn't show on the other side. It's going to be close, but it won't be too bad. Alright, so now we are going to kind of eyeball our sentiment on where we want it and such. And this is where I take a pencil, and so I know I want this side about here, right? Sorry, I'm going to move this up just a smidge for you so you can see it a little bit better on screen, I think. So I want it to be about here. I also want to pay attention. I know that I'm going to banner cut over here, and I don't want there to be a ton of space to the right of my friend here. So I'm going to pull this out just a bit. Okay, and then I'm just going to mark on my paper over here. So now I have my mark that I created. There we go. And I can trim off so I know that that is not going to show when I glue this in here like this, right? So that will be good just like that. And then this one I'm going to trim to be approximately here. And I'm just going to cut a very shallow banner. I do want it to be super shallow. I don't want it to be deep. And that is personal preference. Everybody has something to their own liking. Some like a deeper banner ends. Alright, so I'm going to peel, not the whole thing, just a little bit. Just going to peel this, kind of give it a crease so it has some space. And then I'm going to feed this through the backing so that I can stick this on here. And I want to make sure it's straight. use my tweezers. Alright, so make sure it's straight and then just press that on there. So now we are stuck to our back there. And I am going to trim this just a little bit, just to be safe. Okay. I'm going to just pull a tiny little bit of this glue out because currently it's overflowing and I don't have to worry about it getting stuck and needing to clear that out. And I just want to tack that down. And so now, so sorry, I don't know if you can hear my husband or not, but he's having to deal with some work stuff. And he's a pacer when he is on the phone. Alright, so I just added a couple pieces of foam tape behind our banner to help keep this up here. And alright, perfect. So I'm going to set this here, but I'm not going to glue this down just yet. Right, I want to be able to put things where I think they might look good. And sorry, now I need to move everything out of the way. Put things where they might look good and then still be able to move them if I need to. So let's start with our leaf, and we'll go ahead and put that. I'm just going to mimic this one, right? We already know that one looks good, so we're just gonna copy it. All right, stick that down. And I'll be able to show you some tips that I didn't get to do because I didn't do it in the right order the first time. I know you're probably thinking, what do you mean there's a right order? There is a right order. Sort of. Okay. And then we need our blue and white flowers. And you do something that I lucked out with on the first one, but you do want to pay attention to is the insides of your flowers. So this one, if I have my flower this way, it looks perky, but if I have my flower this way, it kind of looks droopy and sad. So I know flowers sometimes dangle over, but if it's up, it looks happier. So I'm going to stick with a happier flower. And I'm going to go right about here. I say that and I keep moving it more and more. Alright, now my white flower got tucked under a little bit more than I wanted it to. So let's bring that out a little bit more this time. And let's get some glue here. So we need our small blue flower. And we're going to add just a little bit. And we're going to just set this one down. We want that to be right about there. And we want this tucked under just a little bit. The great news about liquid glue, you have some time to move things around a little bit. Alright, let's see, our last sticker is our tiny little bud. And we're going to put this right about here. And glue on the rest of our flowers. Now, you don't want to put on too much glue. You don't want it to ooze out, because while it will dry clear, it will also dry tacky, as in slightly sticky. And so if it's underneath and hidden, that's all good. If it's on top of your flower, that's not so great. Alright, just putting some little dots in the center. And just give that kind of a quick squeeze with my tweezers, because I know if I use my fingers, something's going to move that I don't want to move. All right, so actually, let me pull that off really quick. And there's a reason for that. All right, set that up over there, because we need to flip this over, because our stickers are still sticky, and we don't want that, because we don't want them, if we're going to mail this, we don't want them pressed down onto our card and come out very funky looking, right? Don't want that. So we're going to go ahead and use the backing that we had, and we're going to use our embossing pouch. And we're going to tap that on there. And then we're going to burnish that in with our finger. So press first, right, and then rub. So I don't know why that's the secret sauce, but I promise you it is. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing to these flowers. And there is also one on the inside. I will have enough powder left over on the backer to go ahead and do that with my finger. So, tap, press, and then rub. And you might find that when you're rubbing, it starts to get tacky again. Add some of the powder that's on your backer sheet to your finger, and then just add some more to it. Okay, so that part is all done. So before we do the rest of it, before we do that, we need to add some foam tape to the back of our stickers so they match the rest of our stuff. Where did that? So this is a square that I needed to cut in half earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and add that on here. So basically what I'm doing is, on these outside stickers, I am doing a double sticker. That was not the brightest idea. There we go. I wanted to add an extra press to it. There. So now this was something that I did after the fact earlier. And this makes it so much easier Work smarter. Work for yourself, not against yourself. Alright, and I want to do some here on the small or the large blue flower as well. So I'm just going to use this triangle. Okay, now we can take all the backings off. Including the ring. So our outside edges, they are actually going to be a little bit taller than our ring. Let me see if I can. So you can see they're just a little bit taller. And that's because I did 2 pieces of foam instead of 1 piece of foam and 3 pieces of cardstock. So if you would rather it be exact, you can do 1 piece of foam and 3 pieces of cardstock. Technically 4 pieces of cardstock. No, 3. There's your. Alright, so I have this on here. We're doing just below center. And then we will add our flowers, our acrylic flowers. A little bit too much. Alright, back to the center. Now, this one I'm going to tuck. Now, previously I had tucked here. I think I'm going to tuck it in this space here this time. Moved a little bit, that's okay. Alright, and then this one will go here, so I want to set it down and I want to eyeball where it's going to be so that I can know where to glue and where to not glue. And remember, we don't want a ton because we don't want any to ooze out. I'll give it some pressure for just a few seconds. All right. Voila. That is card 1. 5x7, beautiful card. Lots of dimension. Different textures. Beautiful. So, like I said, you can make 2 of these that look just like this out of your kit. Your stickers, you don't have enough stickers, you don't have enough embellishments to do a 3rd card that looks exactly the same. So, there is that. Alright, next this next one is going to be an illusion card. Because, let me show you the card. You will not believe how I made this card. I'm telling you, you just won't. So here is our card. Super fun. Again, this is the Flower Shop paper packet. And I think that this card is just absolutely adorable. And it's super fun. And would you believe, if you say yes when I say this, I don't know that I'm going to actually believe you. But let's move this one over here. All right. This card came from this set. Can you believe that? So our ice cream are the tree and bushes. And our ice cream cone is actually from our banner here. As is our Just Because. So now I did a lot of this beforehand just to help things go a little bit quicker. Alright, so we do have a card base, traditional 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. A piece of white daisy for the inside that is 4 by 5 1/4. We are using Capri, Toffee, and Archival Black as our ink colors today. So I do have everything already stamped out and ready to go, but I just want to pull everything out just to show you. I guess technically not sure. I don't have everything stamped. Because some of it I can't stamp until it's fully cut. Sorry, the pieces in here are little, so I gotta grab them. Okay. So, our sentiment comes from For All Occasions. It says Just Because. There's other sentiments on here. For You would work. Like, so many of these would work perfectly. Our ice cream cone is coming from our block or grid here, and also one of these swooshes here. And just in case you didn't realize, this Stampin' Thin Cut set is called Home Sweet Home. It is at low quantities, so if you don't have this yet, it has been around for a little bit, but if you don't have it yet and you wanted it for all of the sentiments that are on here, let alone what we're going to do with it today, you might want to go grab it. And then our inside piece is from that same oval set that we used on the first card. Alright, so I think that is most everything. Let's move this guy up here. And go over some pieces. Alright, so this is a 4 by 4 piece of paper, so it's the back side essentially of that card that we used. We have a 1/2 inch by 4 inch piece for the inside. I think this is 1 1/4. Yes, 1 1/4 by 4 inches for the front. And then we have peach, which is 1/4 by 4. I already told you about that oval. All right, and then the rest is sized just enough for the die cuts that you're using, right? All right, so first up, let's get out the pieces so I can show you exactly what we're doing. Let me move these over. We're gonna prep everything and then we'll glue it. Okay, so this is our banner thin cut. So when you cut it out, right, this is the piece that you get, which kind of already looks like an ice cream cone, just a little bit, right? But if you then take it and flip it over, right, so this is how it would cut. If you then flip it over and line up this first little corner, this little corner here, I'm not doing very good at marking it. Here, I'll mark it with a pen. It makes this one not usable, but that's okay. We're gonna mark this little corner here. Oh, you're not gonna mark it, you're just gonna line it up with this first indent here, right here. And then you're also going to line up across the top, right? So your top will match. Hold on, let me see something really quick. Don't, okay, sorry. All right, this might shift just a smidge. So you are going to line up across the top here, right, with your thin cut, so you're not cutting off anymore. And these two corners are going to kind of meet. They don't meet exactly, but they're pretty close, right? And this stuff is all overhanging. So you're going to cut that. And it is easiest to do if you have a little piece of washi that you can tape to hold everything where it's supposed to be. Even if you have the magnet plate, your washi is going to be your friend. All right, so when you do that, you end up with this, sort of. So this one is actually already cut off at the bottom. So if you cut off the bottom one, basically what I did is the scrap that I had, I cut out one whole piece, and I had enough that I could cut out a second one, but it cut off that bottom banner piece, which is fine because I wasn't going to use it anyway. So if you trim off that bottom one, cool beans, right? So then you trim this way, and this is what you end up with no cut marks. Ignore the cut marks if you can see them. Right, you end up with this. And this is one step closer to your cupcake, but look at that. If you turn it that way, that 100% is a cake. Add some candles to the top from one of the other stamp sets. You got a perfect cake on your hand right there. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's perfect for cards. Anyway. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to trim. And you are trimming approximately 1/4. Let me see again. Here, let me mark so you guys can see where my dots are. Alright, so those 2 dots there are how far I'm coming in underneath that top line. And they are not, oops, they are not exact, but they are right about 3/8 in. No, let me rephrase that. Not 3/8, 1/8. They're approximately 1/8 in. Just straight in. And then you're going to angle your scissors so that you are keeping as much at the bottom as you can, but also cutting off at this corner and making it up to your imaginary dot. You can mark it with a pencil. Obviously, if you mark it with a black pen like I did, that's going to stay on there. Right? So you're going to cut both of those out. Looks like a Disney villain. And then you're going to cut straight across, and then you're going to end up with something like this. This one I cut too far in. If you do 1/4 of an inch, you have some problems with your cone. If you do 1/8 of an inch in, your cone is going to be much, much better. All right, see, there's my cone. All right, so move these things out of the way. Let's put this here so I don't lose it. All right, we'll do stamping when we're done, right? Okay. So then we are going to cut, I cut multiples. You don't need multiples. You're going to cut a tree out of Mocha, right? 1 tree out of Mocha, 1 tree out of White Daisy, and then you're going to cut 1 bush out of Peach. I was kind of going with the Neapolitan look, so you're welcome to go with any look that you want to. And the other option is you could get the ice cream stamp that's in the book. It has thin cuts, and it has all sorts of stuff. Let me find that for you. That one. Right? That one's fun. I don't have that one. So, we're going with what we have. We're making our stuff do multiple things, right? So it has a different cone look. We could turn ours sideways and see about that one. But it's got sprinkles and stuff too. So, anyway, it's adorable. So that is what we're going to cut for these guys. Okay. 1 of each for each ice cream. Then what you're going to do is you are going to take your white and take your big bush die again, and then you're going to line up in some fashion. You can twist it, rotate it. That one might have been fun. Twist it, rotate it, however you would like. But what you want is for your cut edges for these cut edges on your thin cut to line up with the first large indent on your bush. Okay, and then you end up with a variety of different shapes depending on where your stuff gets lined up, right? And I managed to chop off the end of that somehow. Not quite sure. That's okay, because it's going to get hidden. All right, so then that is our middle layer. Isn't this fun? I was so excited when I was able to make it work. I really was. Okay, now we have some stamping. So I do have some washi tape here because I didn't want my my squares to go all the way up into the top of my cone. Let me put this back in the sleeve because I don't want to accidentally lose any of them. Okay, so I have this little swoosh that I'm going to do first. And it's just an ink it up and try your best to line it up at the bottom of the ice cream cone top. Like that. And the top isn't covered, and that's okay because we're gonna cover the top anyway, so it won't matter all that much. Alright. And then that's where washi comes in. I'm gonna go ahead and tape that off. And then our waffle part comes in. Let's go ahead and do this one diagonal and see if we like that one a little bit better. And then close that so we get nothing in it. Okay, it's kind of crunchy a little bit. That's okay. I kind of like that. Awesome. All right, so the next step for our sentiment, we used our banner again. So here is our banner. And so it's meant to be like this, right? But I tried a couple different things. I had some wrapped around the cone. Didn't quite look how I wanted it to. But if we take the first one and the last one, they fit perfectly for some of the sentiments. So I was like, great. So then I don't have to do all of it. I can take scraps, because I had some scraps that are about this size, and they fit the top and the bottom perfectly on the little scrap. Fabulous. That means that I can take that and then take my ink and I can just super easy stamp. Now I do want to make sure that my banners are going in the right way because these banners do curve. So we do want to take that into account. And we're going to stamp near the banner cut end for each one. You know what? I think I want to curve this one just a little bit. And because of the type of stamp it is, I have the ability to do that. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Okay, that one's it's only small. Maybe it isn't even at all. Anyway, good enough. Okay. Fabulous. So now we have them stamped. They're ready to go. And the good news is I didn't want to force you guys to watch me cut them out. So I have cut them out already. I have taken a black marker and done the edges of them as well. So it's now everything is ready almost to go. The only thing not ready is the oval, and we're going to do that as we go. So I'll show you that. So let's put everything together. So this is the inside. We'll start with that. And like I said on the first card, I do like to leave just a little bit of white at the bottom. And then this is ready for the outside. Now, my little cheat for the outside is to, when you have pieces that line up together, I like to flip them over and line them up and use washi tape. And since this one is used already, has just a tiny bit of ink on it, that's okay, because we're putting it on the back. And now that piece is lined up perfectly, and I don't have any guesswork to do. A little bit of glue. I did not mean to twist that in my finger like that. And voila, off screen. My apologies. Now, when you are gluing it to put on your project, you do still want to add glue as if they are two separate pieces, because washi tape, that was the end. Oh my goodness. Almost perfect. That's okay. Because the washi tape is not meant for long-term gluing of other pieces together. It will hold to a paper it's attached to, but not necessarily holding to. It's not meant to be a hinge. Okay, so now for your oval, this is kind of a personal preference on how far you want this, so I'm just going to set this kind of in the center and eyeball until it's someplace that I like it. It's going to be anywhere from 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. Grab that pencil again, and I'm just going to go ahead and make some tick marks on my paper. I'm going to have made sure that it was straight before I did that, obviously. And then put that in my trimmer and just trim at those tick marks. So that one ended up being a little bit wider than I expected. So this one is just over 1/2 inch. Alright, and that should still be fine. Alright, so before we glue that on there, let's put our little ice cream together. So we're going to take our white piece and add some glue and attach that to our mocha piece. And we are just going to line this up at the top because the tops match. So we're just literally going to match that up. Okay, and then we're going to add some glue. See what I meant? When I said it's kind of spouting. Alright, so we're going to add some glue just to the top rounded portion of our white piece. And then just add on our peach piece. Make sure that it's sitting how we like it. Good news is we have time to adjust. And then just give it a pinch, hold it for a few seconds. Okay. Then we're just going to attach this on. So the question becomes, would it look better? I don't think it looks better like that. I think we're just gonna have some drippy ice cream. Okay. Add our glue. Kind of put it how we'd like it. Now, if you want to make sure that you don't have any of the non-inked area showing, you can easily flip this stamp around because it's skinnier on one end than the other. So you can flip that around and kind of line that up and get the other half of that as well. Alright, then we're going to grab the toffee ink one more time and grab our sponge dauber and just give a little bit of inking on the edges. And this will help it look a little bit more rounded and not so flat and square. Alright, and then I'm going to do one more thing, which hopefully won't ruin it, but I'm going to kind of round these corners just a tiny bit. And they don't have to match. I think that helps a lot, actually. Okay. So now, before we go on, foam tape. Come back with our lovey-dovey foam tape. And if you are new to my videos, yes, I probably add too much foam tape, but that's okay. I would rather have too much than not enough. Next up, we are going to add our banners, and we are going to add them stuck like we did on the first card, just stuck to the foam tape. And so we're going to kind of judge where we like it, and we'll do one at a time. And just kind of stick that on. And there may not be a whole lot stuck down. depending on how you cut your banner. This one actually doesn't really have a ton, so I'm going to add one more piece of foam tape. So that it can have a good stick base. Because it was going to have not really any at all. The first one doesn't have a ton, but this one would have had even less. So that is our ice cream and sentiment ready to pop onto our card. Fabulous. So before we do that, we are going to not use that. I've not used this particular glue a ton, so I don't know how well I like it just yet. I do know you have to be careful with it because it does have more water content than the green glue does. You know, this stuff. And so it can warp your paper a little bit more, or at least I have found in the past that that's been my issue. And we're just going to line up our ice cream kind of like that, but before we do that, a tiny little trick that I have done many times is thin foam tape. I am going to take just a tiny little square and put it at the end of my banner. And then the banner will kind of stick up at the end. And it gives it some look of movement on the card. Alright, everything's peeled off. I just want to make sure that the ice cream cone is straight and that the sentiments are not going to come off the side. Voila! And there is our card number 2. What do you think so far? Hopefully you're really enjoying it. Alright, card number 3. Hold on. Gotta clean up some of this mess. So that I can continue on. Alright. What if I told you that you could make 2 cards from a sheet of cardstock and only have this left over? Oops. Wait, one more. That. So this is our only scraps. And we're going to make 2 cards, and you are going to think they are super cute. At least that's what I hope you're going to think. Alright. Stuff out of the way. Let me show you the cards first. These are the cards that we're going to make. So we have faux stitching, and some easy stamping, and some numbers. Alright, super fun. Now I am going to make a couple of easy differences on these, and that will be up to you on whether or not you do that as well. But let's get started. Alright, I wrote down the steps so that I did them in the right order with you, because that's important. Okay, so you need to find the bend in your paper. So if you have your 12 by 12 and you try to bend, you'll have tension of some degree. And if you rotate it 90 degrees and you bend, one side will bend clearly easier than the other side, right? Even if I just hold, right? No pressure, holding, you can't really tell, but this is kind of the curve of this side. And if I do the same thing on this side, right, it's falling out of my hands. So clearly this is the grain length of the grain length. The grain is running this way. So we're going to find our bend, right? That's our bend. With our bend parallel to our trimmer, i.e. the same way that our blade's going to go, we are going to cut at 4 inches. Okay? Cutting at 4 inches. Now, we're going to rotate this piece, and then we are going to trim this at 11. So this is one of our scrap pieces. And then 5.5. These are our card bases. Now, if you wanted to go back and forth, and before you make that cut, score this at 4 inches, you can. But I decided to keep everything here and then move over. So these are 5.5 by 8, both of them. All right, so we're going to come back to this piece, and we are going to make this piece 3 3/4. Okay. Another piece of our scrap. Rotate that. And you're going to cut 2 pieces that are 5 1/4. Yes, I could have done it the same way I did the first one, but I did not. Alright, so these are our reusable pieces. So we have 4 pieces over here. We have 3 pieces over here, and these are our scraps. Now, if you wanted this to kind of blend all together completely, you could cut your banner pieces out of your scrap card craft cardstock, and you can do this out of any color. You do not have to use craft, obviously. That's just what I'm using. So I wanted the banner to stick out a little bit more, so I went with White Daisy. All right, so these are our scraps. Do with them as you will. Okay. Before I move on, I want to let you know that we are using the banners from the Waterfall Thin Cuts because they are amazing and still available. And I am using the slim numbers for the numbers for our card. So, the number die cuts that you use, or Cricut cuts that you use, will determine the size that you need underneath. You, of course, can make it be the whole piece. You can make it be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. Up to you. You don't need to. You only need it to be big enough to cover underneath your numbers. So that being said, our pieces are 2 by 2 3/4. Nope, 2.5 by 2. Okay, and they are the same paper that I used originally, and just front and back. If you wanted to use this dotted paper, you could, and it would become more of a boy theme card. All right, and then I also have 2 pieces of White Daisy that are 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. And yes, I know that is smaller than the normal card, and I did that on purpose because I wanted that ratio for the numbers that I was using to the card size. Alright, our stamp sets today, I did use 2 different ones, 1 sentiment for each card. So Happy Hour Stampin' Thin Cuts. This one is To Another Trip Around the Sun and Happy Birthday. And then You Deserve It All for Happy Birthday. So you don't have to use both. You could use one or the other. Again, totally up to you. And I guess technically speaking, you also will have your numbers as scrap, right, to fit into your scrap pile. But of course you can use those on another card. So you just tuck them into your packaging and away you go. Alright, setting those aside. So before we cut out numbers, let's do some stamping so it can dry. I've already cut them out, so I cut some of each. I cut some extras just in case I was not very good at stamping. And I did curve this one. So To Another Trip Around the Sun, it is a straight stamp, but I did curve it to kind of match our wavy banner. So we're going to stamp in Sapphire ink because that matches our paper. Fabulous. also these little guys. Yes. So I have little leaf things. They also come from this home stamp, and I added them on the happy birthday just because it seemed a little bit empty and I needed a little bit more something something. So if you ever need a little more something something on your stamp set or on your image, now you know where to go. My stamp is not on the block straight, so it's not terrible, but it's not as good as I would like. So let's try to pick it up a little bit more straight. There we go. So that we can stamp it a little bit better. A little more better. Fabulous. Alright, and then just our 3 little swooshes. They're not swooshes. Little leaves. I'm sure they have a technical name. I don't know what it is. Okay. And then on the inside of one of the cards, we're going to add happy birthday. Perfect. And that is all of our stamping. Well, let's pick some numbers. So we will want some washi tape to hold our numbers in place. All right, let's see, some numbers. I need some numbers. Pick some random numbers. I should have looked up some friends' birthdays before I got online. All right, let's do 21. So here's one of my secrets. Grab a ruler or your score tool or bone folder and press up from the bottom. That will line up your numbers across the bottom. The downside is making sure they don't move afterwards, like that just did. Alright, let's try this again. Okay, that really is the hardest part. All right, let's pick another number. How about 46? I don't know. I'm sure I know somebody who's 46 or going to be 46. Plus, this will give me the option doubly to show you a handy dandy trick. Alright, so you get them kind of where you want them space-wise, next to each other. Do our little straight trick. Make sure your number's up straight. That moved. There we go. We're just going to call that good. Unless it's, nope, that's clearly not good. Excuse my head. Okay. 21 and 46. Add them onto our cutting plate and run this through our machine real quick. Okay. Those pieces aren't going far because we are going to need them. All right. There's our 21. And our 46. Now we are going to need these again for our little trick here. So our centers here, we are actually going to need those for our cards, right? Because our numbers have centers and we need to mark them, because I want my numbers to look like lines, 4 and 6, not empty spaces. I don't know what the right word is for that, but close enough. So these are our centers, and we can make sure that they are the right way. So sometimes you can tell front and back, sometimes you can't when you are using the metal shim. So I'm just going to make sure that things are the way they are supposed to be. Right? So we don't get things mixed up. It could look funny. We don't want it to look funny. So I'm just putting a mark on the back side. Alright, this is where the next part comes into play. We are going to grab our foam tape. So this is change number 1. The first card I did, I used thin foam tape, and I do not have enough of that for 2 more cards, which is fine, totally fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use regular foam tape on these. So we're going to take these insides and we're going to lay them on our foam. Goodness. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky, especially if you're on video. Okay. Now, spacing doesn't matter at the moment because we are going to actually cut them apart, obviously, because we need to work with them with our numbers. Okay. So, you can use your embossing tool to make this not sticky where it's not supposed to be sticky. Actually, it's probably going to be easier to work that way, although you do not have to. It is possible to do this without doing that, but this is probably going to be the easiest way. Okay, and then that washi tape that you had before, you're going to use it again, and you're going to attach your centers. Now, I know you can't quite tell because you don't have the feeling that you get when you're playing with things, you know, actual in person type thing. So of course this worked better the first time, but I'm just going to put some washi on there, just kind of wrap it around so it stays still. But what I started to say is when you put your piece on here, it will kind of fall into place, right? Because that center fits somewhere, right? It fits into that die cut, and so it wants to go to that spot. And so if you move it around a bit, you can feel it slide into that spot. I'm going to say all that, and I'm going to get this 4 messed up somehow, I'm sure, but okay. Now, with the thicker foam tape, you will probably want to run it through at least twice, and it will squish it. It will be a little bit thinner, but it will pop back up. Trust that worked. And you can see that it did die cut, at least to the backing, if not also through the backing. Okay. Now is the next part. So this, obviously, right? Sorry, that wasn't very helpful at all. All right, so I have, this is an old piercing pad, but you can use any foam thing. You can use the back side of your Versamat, right? It has a spongy, so that would work for this. You are going to take your piercing tool, and you can freehand this, or you can use a ruler. So this is our old ruler, but if you have the new T-square ruler, or if you were looking to get it, it does have a stitching guide on there as well. And so you could easily use that and so I'm just, as you can see, it's got a grid on it, and I am just lining up the grid with the top of my paper and changing my mind. So I am going to make this a little bit easier on myself. And I'm going to line up the top of my paper with the top of the row of the first row of piercing holes, so that I now don't have to do any counting. I literally can just go through and add holes. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing again. Mostly I am going to line up my first hole with the hole that's already there, and then I'm going to make that last hole fall. So I'm still going to line up with that first one, but I'm not going to use that. I'm just going to use it as a marking point. And you might be thinking, Michelle, I really don't want to do stitching on cards. And you most definitely do not have to do stitching on cards. This is faux stitching. All right. Which is what is so great about this. Now you definitely want to do this before the next step, because that will make it hard to do if you do not. But I will show you another way as well. This one, as you can see, is going by pretty quickly. And so now I'm just going to line up the gray line that these holes are on with the hole on this end and the hole on this end, and then just kind of go for it. Okay, so card 1 pierced. You can see the holes through there. All right, we're setting that aside for the moment. I know there's not piercing on the next one. That's okay. We're going to bring in our white gel pen. So I'm using the 08. They come in a set of 3. 05, 08, wrong pens. 05, 08, and 10. And those refer to the size of the tips of the pen. So now we are just going to draw lines between our holes. Now these holes are probably a little bit wider than I would have liked. And the rest of them seem so much closer. They're probably not. So as you can see, I am skipping every other because that's the look that I like. And I am going over my line 3 times. 1, 2, 3. This gives nice coverage with the white pen. So the downfall with this method with the ruler is the size might be a little bit larger than what you're looking for widthwise. You can go with the smaller, and you can zigzag as well. So it's meant for a straight stitch, 2 different straight stitches and a zigzag stitch. So that is another option. Okay, this is the next option, is you go through and just create your own stitches. Try to make sure I'm actually up on camera. This allows you to make the size of stitches that you want. And then you have 2 choices. So for this card, I am not going to do any piercing. Just to save a little bit of time on the video, and also so you can have some comparison. So the 2 cards that I did for the example, I did this style of just hand drawing the stitching, and then I went in and added piercing at either end of the stitching. And I will grab one of the scraps and I will show you what I mean. Alright, let this dry. Grab one of these scraps. Okay. Obviously you want to let it dry first. So we have hand stitching, hand marked stitching on here. And then you're going to pierce at the beginning and the end of each of your marks. And it doesn't take a ton of time, but obviously takes a little bit more time than the first method. But it gives you a very realistic look. Here is the pre-hole and then marked. It looks very similar but slightly different. Right? So, and then you have the no holes. Okay. So they all look pretty neat. It just is a difference of detail. All right, now on the back side, we are adding foam. So much foam. We will finish that and we will need more. So I am going to try to not cover over the holes so that they can be seen through. If I add the white on there, it will show white, and that's not really the look I'm going for, right? These ones were cut just a little bit more thoroughly, apparently. Right, I want to make sure to get coverage between the numbers so that that doesn't fall. We do want to do these little bits down on the 6 as well. Obviously trying to make sure that nothing peeks through. Sometimes just using the tweezers is the best option. Okay. Another one done. These squares are clearly slightly larger. Mr. Otis thinks he's never been fed in his life. Of course, that's untrue. All right. Finished off 2 insides. Fabulous. Now, let's score these. These will be obviously easier to use if you score them before you just fold them. They will look so much nicer. These. Okay. So sometimes the paper is slightly off. So I'm just going to fix it real quick. And a lot of times That is because it is just slightly greater than 12 by 12 paper. Okay, let's attach the insides to the cards. Let's do that last. Let's do the paper to the inside of our fronts. So let's make sure these should fit. Beautiful. And like with our previous card, we are going to attach our paper to the foam tape. And we will get a similar effect. Ours will be slightly more pronounced because, like I said earlier, I used thin foam tape on the first set and regular foam on this one. I'm just peeling away. That is one of the downsides of this style of card, is the amount of foam to peel away. Alright, if you are watching and you have a birthday that fits one of these cards, let me know. I might send it to you. Now, if somebody else has already let me know, then we might have to hold off on that. But alright. And I am going to add just a little bit of wet glue on the back side and attach. Okay, and then the same for the next card. If you make sure everything is well pressurized, it will help with getting the backers off. So, Otis is a Maine Coon, or at least part Maine Coon, and they really love to talk. And he sings a song of his people every time that it is within an hour of him. I'm trying to not say the word because if I say the word, it will make him go off even more. But when he gets close to FOOD time, he gets noisy. And he knows when the time change, he knows. He will be semi-patient when we fall back, and when we spring forward, he's like, nope. It is the exact time I'm supposed to eat. I don't care if I was supposed to eat an hour later, a day ago. Right right now it is my exact time to eat. Feed me, see more. Okay. And again, a little bit. Liquid. I have found that the craft sticks up more when you have it folded already. So I do try to go ahead and press that down, or rather open it up when I'm doing the fronts. All right, time for the centers. Okay, so my 4 I did not get lined up quite right. That's okay. I kind of knew that was going to happen because I'm on camera, so of course it's going to happen. Okay. It happened to smidge with the 6 too. That's okay. No one will notice. So my 6, I was super close. Only that tiny little sliver at the top. So that's close enough to me. And then my 4 was slightly a bit more off. So along that long side there. But that does mean that I do have some showing on that other side. So I do need to attempt to trim that, unfortunately. Alright. The back obviously is not going to stay on. Not too shabby. Close enough. And then we can just put that in the center. And then it, at least mostly, lines up. With the height of the rest of it. So it'll pop up a little bit more. It is still condensed a little bit, but it will pop up some more. Okay, so now the question is which yep, I think just like that. Now I did put foam tape on the other ones, but since I did the thicker foam tape on these cards, I'm just going to use liquid glue and I'm just going to attach straight flat. Straight flat. Just so that they're still mailable without too much hassle. Awesome. And now for the insides. So my happy birthday for the inside goes on the one that says to another trip around the sun. Just so that it's clear that it's a happy birthday card. Something I have noticed about this glue is it does seem to be a little bit thicker than the green glue. So maybe I was just using it wrong before. That could never happen, right? Okay. And that is our second card, third card, whatever, our third set of cards. I don't know how to phrase that because this is the only one that was a set. Anyway, so there you can kind of see, I guess if I did it this way, you can kind of see there's a different shadowing. Between the two. Alright, there's more shadow on the 46 than there is on the 27. So, alright, so there is that. Let's pull these all in. So we have these cards, which I think turned out great with all the different stitching on them. We have our ice cream bushes. And then we have our fun frame cards. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me. Every Thursday I have a free class, 3 on Thursdays. I give the sizes and measurements and walk you through how to make all of the cards in that class. And I hope that you'll make them and show them off. Let me see what you've done. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for watching live. Thank you for watching on the replay. And I will talk to you guys later.